Hey, good morning, friends. Today is Wednesday, May the 14th, 2025, and the time now is 7:32 a.m. So, friends, I want to talk briefly about Tanzania, and I want to talk specifically about the fact that Tanzania is looking to improve or to increase its export, its production and export of avocado. Avocado is a very important fruit or crop or vegetables, however you want to say it. I don't know which one. But in today's diet throughout the entire world, people, countries, institutions are consuming avocado. And avocado is being used in terms of its extract and in terms of its raw actual form. Whether we are talking about institutions, okay, companies or restaurants such as Chipotle in the United States or places in Europe, Asia, the Americas, and Africa, folks are using avocado. Now, avocado is one of the fruits, okay, or one of the crops or whatever you say it in Tanzania that people have been paying attention to and they've been cultivating it extensively. So, my friends, as a means to boost production and export, Tanzania Horticultural Association, TAHA, inaugurated or has constructed, initiated at least five facilities basically dedicated to the production, the export of avocado. What these facilities are going to be doing is harvesting the avocado, sorting the avocado, grading the avocado, and distributing the avocado. Now, I have to find more details in terms of how this works. But what this is pertaining to, in terms of the goal or the objective, whichever one you want to use, is one, the the cultivation, two, the harvesting, three, the storage, and then four, the shipment, the distribution. I've said many times, okay, Africa has about 60 to 65% of the world's arable land. That basically means about 60 or 65% of the world's land that is good for farming. However, less than 7% of that land is in use, which basically means that Africa is underdeveloped and it's underused in terms of its arable land for agriculture and food production. As a result, or as one of the consequences, Africa is said to import about 80 to 85% of the food that it consumes. In addition to this, you have the rich and powerful countries like the United States, Canada, Australia, and the European countries that basically subsidize their own agriculture and force Africa to consume what Africa doesn't produce, what the rich and powerful countries produce. Basically means that I'm going to suppress your production and I'm going to subsidize my farmers in Americas, in Australia, in Europe, in Canada, in the UK, in Germany, in France, and so on. I'm going to subsidize them so they can mass produce and they can sell to you. In this case, this in itself underdeveloped your agricultural capacity. And as a result, Africa has been struggling. Therefore, friends, what Tanzania is doing is one, not only to be able to produce, to cultivate the avocado, but two, to store, to sort, to grade, and to export, okay, to distribute the avocado. It is said that in Africa, or even around the world in general, a vast amount of the food produced, okay, the crops produced around the world basically go in waste. They rotten. And that is so much so the case in Africa where farmers are cultivating crops, fruits, and vegetables, and so on and so on. However, the produce are basically going in waste. They're rotten because the farmers are unable to ship, okay, to distribute their product. In this case, there isn't a very sustainable or a very reliable infrastructure for distribution of the commodity or the produce, or to store the produce. Storage is one of the most prominent reality of agriculture or farming. It is not enough to produce, but what is important is after you've produced, after you've cultivated the crop, can you store the crop in its right condition, under the right condition? For example, if we are talking about fruits and vegetables, can you store them in a refrigeration or refrigerated system until they are distributed and they basically go into the market? However, friends, if the produce do not require storage and refrigeration system, or if the produce do not require refrigeration system, can you or are you able to store it under a condition that prevents rodents, that prevents rats, mice, roaches, okay, or insect from eating the product, infesting the product, destroying the product? Those are things to consider. Now, Tanzania as a country, as a domestic, as a sovereign entity, does have a plan, a vision, or a policy of 1030. Tanzania wants to increase or boost avocado production by 10% every year from now to 2030. This means that every year there is going to be a 10% increase in the production of avocado to 2030. Hence, the policy is 1030 policy. Now, the Tanzania Horticultural Association, TAHA, is now 20 years old, and in celebration of its 20-year anniversary, has cultivated about 5 facilities dedicated to: 1, the cultivation of avocado; 2, the sorting of avocado; 3, the grading of avocado; 4, the distribution of avocado, okay? Trying to improve or increase Tanzania's avocado production, not only to boost production, but also to meet international standard. As a result of the policy in Tanzania, it is said that thousands of farmers are within the system, and they've been trained, and also they've been worked through the process of attaining internationally recognized certification or certificate so that their products can enter the market. Now, Tanzania has a plan to boost its production of avocado to about 250,000 tons. But it is said that by 2030, the country could reach about 900 plus thousand tons. So that is a good thing for the country, and I hope they continue to do so. Now, in terms of Tanzania's policy to increase, to boost the production, distribution, the sale of avocado, as much as I welcome that, one thing that basically rubs me wrong is the fact that it seems that the vast majority of Tanzania's export goes to Europe and so on. Basically, is shipped outside of Africa. Now, given what is happening with Donald Trump's trade war, I think perhaps it is very important that Tanzania and other African countries begin to work together and try to eliminate barriers and build the infrastructure, whether we are talking about physical infrastructure, academic infrastructure, and intellectual infrastructure, so that the production, the distribution, and the sales of food and products can be realized throughout Africa. Now, of course, it is said that Tanzania's main partner, the partners to which Tanzania is exporting its avocado, is Europe, Asia or China, and the Middle East. I would love to see one day when Tanzania's avocado is primarily destined for the African market. Now, friends, if you are new to this channel, The Echoing Voice, or if you are watching the channel, my videos for the very first time, this is how this channel is set up. Every prominent international institution in the world, whether we are talking about NATO, the African Union, the European Union, EU, CARICOM, and so on, those have at least one playlist on this channel. However, my friends, every country in the world has at least two playlists on this channel. For example, one playlist is titled the country's name and the other playlist is domestic the country's name. This is how it works. The playlist, the country's name, will feature videos, talks, programs, or ideas that focus specifically on the country's position in its region, its interaction with other countries in its region, and with countries and institutions all over the world. Whether we are talking about diplomacy, okay? Whether we are talking about trade, we are talking about international trade, we are talking about finance, economics, security, global security, and so on. In this case, we are talking about Tanzania. Now, the video which you are watching is going to be in the Tanzania playlist, the country's name, Tanzania playlist. And this playlist will feature videos, talks, programs, or ideas that focus on Tanzania's relations with countries in its region, in East Africa, in Africa, and around the world. And also Tanzania's interaction with international institutions and organizations and so on. However, my friends, the playlist Domestic the Country's Name will feature videos, talks, programs, or ideas that focus specifically on the domestic situation within the country. In this case, we are talking about Tanzania. Therefore, the Domestic Tanzania playlist will feature videos, talks, programs, or ideas about the domestic situation in Tanzania. Whether we are talking about economics, infrastructure, job, food security, and so on, and so on, and so on. Now, friends, please tell me what you think, and I really want to know what you think. But friends, I am going to end here. I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, my friends. But most especially and most importantly, or most important, I want to thank you a lot for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace.